I was recently talking to Josh Bridges, who back in the 2010s through the 2015 era of CrossFit was always a podium kind of contender, a finisher, one of the top dogs. And he was talking about at the time, he had no idea about an animal-based diet. He talks in the podcast about finding your work after he'd retired and how it changed his life. And he was like, it's the one thing he would have changed if he could go back and compete at that level again, because he looked very physically impressive. He was jacked. He was a savage. He was a top 5 finisher regularly. He podiumed a couple of times. But he said he was an absolute mess on the inside, just rotten farts that would anger his wife. He was chronically inflamed. And now he basically says he could never sacrifice his health in that way again to pursue that level of athleticism. But he feels better. He's moving more weight. He's eating more nutrients.
Yeah, he was a savage.
Nutrient-dense
he was
food.
a savage.
Crazy.
Has Rich Froning found benefits to an animal-based diet?
Yes, some, with the knee inflammation and recovery. And that's one of the things that Rich talks about a lot. Similarly, when he was in his heyday and he was in the GOAT of the sport, and it's just kind of earn it and burn it. And these guys are just purely just ramming as many calories in as they can and not giving much attention to the quality of those calories. It comes with a cost. I think what a lot of these guys are learning now and becoming aware of, and it's largely thanks to people like you and this increasing internet exposure to different ideas, that there's no biological free lunch. Like I posted a reel just today, actually, where I said, you can outtrain a bad diet. Pro athletes do it all the time, but you cannot outtrain the consequences of a bad diet. And that's the Josh Bridge example. That's the Rich Froning example. They talk about back in the heyday, nobody was really guiding them on this. They were just eating as many calories as they could put in their face because they were training like maniacs 3-4 times a day. But it came at a cost, and that's joint degradation, or it's, gut issues, or it's thyroid function. And, people hopefully can learn from, those mistakes. As physically impressive as those people became, they now speak about the importance of really paying attention to the food and nose to tail nutrition and caring about where things come from. So I think it's wonderful. But yeah, we never had the awareness of colostrum back then either. And these things seem to, it's funny because it's an ancient food, obviously, but it seemingly came out of nowhere. And now it's like the new trendy thing,
It's important to emphasize you can out-train the calories from a bad diet, but like you said, not the other food additives. You can't out-train refined sugars and starches causing leaky gut. You can't out-train carboxymethylcellulose and carrageenan causing inflammation and leaky gut. You can't out-train linoleic acid getting put into your mitochondria and cell membranes and lipoproteins and causing increased susceptibility to oxidation. You can't out-train these things. You can't out-train heavy metals. You can't out-train forever chemicals, PFAS. You can't out-train microplastics. You can't out-train BPA and BPS. And all of these things are more highly concentrated in ultra-processed foods, unquestionably. So anyone who says you can out-train a bad diet is just completely wrong.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.